You know, this year was pretty good for music. There was a lot that I enjoyed, and a lot surprised me too. But that didn't come at the cost of losing brain cells from hearing a lot of the garbage that came out this year. Today, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite video and year-end list season, the top 10 worst albums of the year. Even though I endured bad albums this year, I thought it would be pretty fun to tear into the albums I thought were the most terrible, most boring, and the most unbearable. It goes without saying that I myself haven't heard everything that came out this year. That will be straight masochism, and I'm not about pain for pleasure. I'm also the weird one that didn't go actively out to hear bad albums for the most part. So if you're wondering, oh, where's Stain? Where's Puddle of Mud? Where's Hardy? Where's AJR? They're not here. I don't want to lose any more of my sanity than I had to, so they're not here, and I'm not listening to them. Those bands and artists don't even deserve my attention to tear into them anyways. Before we get into the top 10 though, I'm going to go through a quick couple of dishonorable mentions of albums that I didn't think were good, but not bad enough to make the actual top 10. Suicide Silence, Remember, You Must Die. The newest album from the established deathcore band gives us more of the same from the last album. Nothing really worthwhile or noteworthy, other than not being as bad as the self-titled album from 2017. Remember when Teehee Core existed? Unfortunately, I do, and they've been playing it safe while giving out creativity. Eddie Hermita's vocals are also starting to sound strained and shot as well. It's a pretty sad sight to see for a band that held such promise with Mitch Lucker in the 2000s. If the next album is like this, then it might be time for Suicide Silence to be permanently silent. All Time Low's Tell Me I'm Alive. This is easily the band's worst album to date, which was very disappointing because Wake Up Sunshine was great. The problem is that this album sounds bankrupt of ideas by sounding like rejected B-sides from the last two albums. Add nonsensical lyrics on songs like the title track and Modern Love, and you get an incredibly boring album. I also want to add that this album is not bad because of the allegations surrounding them, which is really shady. This is bad because Tell Me I'm Alive sounds like a former shell of themselves, and this is coming from a fan of All Time Low. It made me feel dead inside. And finally, Falling in Reverse's Watch the World Burn. Yeah, I know this is a song, but I want to briefly talk about this, and I don't feel like making a worst songs video. Mr. Ronald Radke, aka Ronald McDonald, has become one of the biggest scumbags not only in music but in life in general, and Watch the World Burn only adds fuel to that raging fire. This is straight up the worst song I've heard all year long. Terrible production with trap beats, and Ronnie trying to sound like the whitest kid in middle school by trying to rip off of Eminem's Rap God and trying to be edgy by having a breakdown. Ooh, I'm so scared with a completely generic title and pandering to the right-wing politics. Seriously, how far off the edge do you have to be to think that this is what the world wants? The constant behavior of Ronnie being a transphobe, racist, sexist, criminal, and completely petty person makes Ronnie what we call scum of the earth. If you enjoy this song or Falling in Reverse in general, I don't want you to be associated with me. You're a problem that needs to be eradicated. We've only witnessed the calm before the storm. So now, let's talk about the worst albums 2023 had to offer. Another Asking Alexandria album, another spot on the worst list. Look, I've never been a fan of Danny Warsaw Company with their brand of metalcore and crapcore. The old stuff has aged so poorly, and the new stuff sucks too. So I wasn't expecting good things with Where Do We Go From Here. especially after hearing they're going to return to their metalcore roots. But here's the surprising thing. This album is actually one of their better albums that they've made, but it's still at number 10 on my worst list. The big problem here is that Asking Alexandria are trying to cash in on that SiriusXM octane by making generic metalcore with a 2023 production style that is clearly overproduced to death. Blend that in with what we heard so many times like Let Go or Nothing Left, while also have terrible production. This album also confirms to me that Danny Warsaw sucks as a harsh vocalist, especially on songs like Dark Void and Splat Blood. Even though there were songs in here that I like Things Could Be Different and the title track, they also made some of the worst songs they've ever made, like on Let the Dead Take Me, Kill It With Fire, and the god-awful Psycho. Who asked Danny to sound like Ronnie Radke rapping? I love to get attention. Attention's all I need to feed my own sad. This also confirmed that the only song called Psycho that is actually good is from System of a Down. If one of your better albums still lands on your worst list, I think that tells you that the band is just not good at all. And that's the case with Asking Alexandria. Hey, speaking of bad metalcore, Crown the Empire is here with Dogma at number 9. I've never cared for Crown the Empire much at all. They got a few songs I think are decent, and I don't hate Andy Leo's vocals. But man, this band doesn't have a lot of interesting stuff. And this is only made worse with the allegations surrounding their guitarist. Pushing that aside, Dogma really wouldn't have bothered me if the production on this album wasn't complete garbage. I don't know who Zach Jones or Josh Strock are, but y'all made this album sound bad. This was so overproduced and it made the sound of the album grating. So much of this album was just completely covered in digital electronics that made Andy sound like he's being sucked by a digital vacuum cleaner on Black Sheep or Immortalized. Paranoid I remember being very bad with the trap beats going on, and Superstar with Remington Leap is annoying. Look, I'm a Palais Royale fan, but Remington did not do a good job here. Even when the production isn't completely ruining the album, it just sounds like a completely generic metalcore album to me, which is what you not should be making as a band. I'll give credit for In Another Life because it features Courtney LaPlante, and I do think that song is good. But besides that, don't bother with this album. So when hearing this for the first time, one thought occurred to my mind after listening to Skeletons by Pop Evil. Why do Pop Evil exist when there are far better bands like Shinedown? Seriously, why listen to basically knockoff Shinedown than listen to actual Shinedown? Maybe someone can answer that in the comment section below, but the fact of the matter is Skeletons by Pop Evil is just, in the words of Fantano, not good. Skeletons was an album that is just completely generic hard rock to try to get on the radio. Sure, there are some decent riffs here and there, and some of the vocals from Lee were fine enough, but all that is thrown out with the generic writing we've heard to death and the production where it sounds like they tried to combine digital effects with trap and vocoded vocals and guest features that do not help them sound better. If anything, they made Pop Evil worse. Seriously, the last 3 songs, which featured John Falls of Devour the Day, Brian Kirby for Fifth for Kink, and Zillion, whoever that guy is. Revisiting this album for this video, I forgot how bad some of the songs on here, like Eye of the Storm and Sound of Glory, as the production weighs in on them, and they give you that feeling of, okay, yeah, this isn't really good. Basically, it's a generic hard rock album with bad production and nothing really all that good. I don't really have much else to add other than just saying, Just listen to Shinedown, pop on Santa Mountains or Al Amaryllis, cause those albums are better than the Pop Evil has probably have ever done ever. I can't believe I still had to talk about Theory of a Dead Man. Are these guys seriously still making music? Are they seriously still a thing? Did we learn nothing from Say Nothing and how much of an abomination that album was? Apparently not, because everyone's favorite degrading butt rock band is back with Dinosaur. Yay! This band just sucks, and this album continues their trend of being a sucky band. I guess to their credit, this album is better than the last two albums, but all this album did was show every problem with Theory of a Dead Man since 1999. Tyler Conley couldn't sound more bored out of his mind, even if he tried, because he sounds like he doesn't even want to be there in the studio. The lyrics, oh my god, the lyrics from this band are absolute crap. These lyrics are so degrading about drinking, having sex, using or being used by women, partying, but they also try to be woke on the title track? It's so awful. Like, you guys are in your 40s. What made you think that this was a good idea? Don't even get me started on songs like Medusa and Ambulance, because those have some of the album's worst lyrics, and Two of Us being offensively bad for sampling the original Just the Two of Us by Grove Washington. Seriously, screw you guys for that. The music itself isn't much better because it's the same draggy, boring, post-grunge butt rock they've been making for the past 20 years, and nothing's changed. This album sounds like it was specifically made for divorced dads in their mid-40s going through a midlife crisis, trying to show everyone, we're still in our 20s and we're still doing cool stuff. Yeah, sure, Uncle Conley, take your medicine while we send you to the retirement home. Theory should really act like the dinosaurs and become extinct, and say nothing, because this was not a wake-up call anyone asked for. What the hell happened to Water Park? What happened to you guys? Remember when they made good albums like Double Dare? Man, I miss those days. And even though entertainment and fandom weren't on that level of greatness, I still enjoy those albums, and yeah, there was definitely some quirkiness there, but they were also to be self-aware enough to have a sense of reality and be real as well. But Jesus Christ, when the 2020s came out, this band becomes something else entirely. Greatest Hits was just a complete insane WTF moment that I'm still having trouble processing, so Intellectual Property was their last chance to see if they could be good or not. And as you can tell with this list, this band still sucks now. Austin Knight has really become irritating in music and as a personality. His quirky bimbo-like nature has become incredibly annoying and has bled into the music big time. And Intellectual Property was just this album that tried to be dark, edgy, wacky electronic pop rock that makes you feel like you can only enjoy this when you're on high fructose corn syrup. The sing-songy nature of two best friends, self-sabotage, and brainwash get real annoying fast. And the complete abrupt electronic bass boost that try to be angry, edgy, fast-talking songs of Ritual, Real Super Dark, and A Night on Earth just leave you with, what the hell were you guys thinking? This is the type of quirky music that got me so upset and disappointed that it straight up made me not a fan of water parks anymore. I'm checking out and not even bothering with this bimbo try to be mean girls band anymore. What made them be like, oh, okay, they're on Fueled by Ramen, the place where rock bands go to die. Okay, that makes sense why they suck now. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Why bother with Godsmack in 2023? This band has nothing good to offer, so why bother with Godsmack anymore? Well, for one reason. They said that Lighting Up the Sky was gonna be their final album. So after this, they're done making music and they're going to be a tour band for the future and play the hits. But to quote what Crash Thompson said when he covered this in his film earlier this year, "You're Godsmack. What hits do you have?" But I decided, this is gonna be their last album. Let's see if they could end things not terribly and... The only colors that stand true are the red, white, blue. Bro, are you serious? Did you guys really went that direction for your music? Did you really think that was a good idea? What is wrong with you guys? Lighting Up the Sky is one of the laziest boomer, butt rock, post-grunge, boring, white-wing pandering, support the troops album I've ever heard in my life. This is the same tired, dreary, butt rock Godsmack has been making since their existence in the music. It's lifeless with its lazy solos, drum fills, riffs, and has no depth and creativity. Sully Erna sounds completely bored as hell, and he sounds like he just wants Godsmack to be over with. The songwriting here is the absolute worst part. They pander to their audience on the right-wing side of politics. The whole America's changing and we gotta keep it the way our ancestors wanted. I love my country. It's shown by songs like Growing Old, What About Me, Best of Times, Truth, Red, White, and Blue. Yeah, these are song titles. And the worst part is that this album is long. Almost 50 minutes of boomer fart dad in their 50s driving a Harley Davidson Ford F-250. Yeah, obviously passed on this. I'm just glad we don't have to deal with any more guys like, wait, hold up, what's this? Are you serious right now? Like, they still might put out music? Well, thanks for making me suffer for nothing, Jack. We never knew how to forfeit. For most of the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon actors that went into a music career, I personally don't really care for most of them. Not all of them are bad, but it's also just not really my thing. But when it comes to the Jonas Brothers, it seems like their return after many solo projects hasn't been keen for critics. With their new album, The Album, why is it called that again? That lukewarm reception has only gotten even more colder as time went on. This is single-handedly the whitest album I've heard in a while. The most bland, top 40 try-to-beat chart album that comprises what this album. While this album is short, it makes your brain go static with how boring and bad this album can get. It's the kind of pop that'll be played in a grocery store, because it's so void a personality other than getting me irritated. There are songs like Miracle and Wings where the vocals get pretty annoying to the ear, and songs like Celebrate and Little Bird that are so boring it gets under the skin. There's even a song called Waffle House. That's how white this album is. I say it's white because it's no spice on this album, because I guess the Joe Bros are scared of the spice level of salt? I can't breathe. At the end of the album, we have the song Waltz with John Billion, where I wanted to lose my mind with how awful it is. That kind of captures my thoughts on the album. Look, you young girls and Disney adults, you can have them all you want. But I've grown up, and I don't feel like reliving nostalgia from past Disney shows anymore. As someone who was never on board within this moment, I can say I never hated the band, but listening to all their albums and hearing God Mode in 2023 made my opinion change. Because Jesus Christ, this band sucks. Somehow, In This Moment made their worst album to date. God Mode is the same boring industrial hard rock they've been making for the longest time, but add trap beats and digital effects and make this album truly unlistenable and aggravating at times. Maria's brink vocals were always a huge problem with me trying to enjoy In This Moment's music. Her voice is ear-piercing whether she's shaking loudly or trying to get her O-face in the studio. She's nailed on a chalkboard, but her voice got worse on the title track and The Purge. Sacrifice and Faithbringer use those trap beats and digital effects that I mentioned, and is aided In This Moment album without a cover, because they cover Bjork's Army of Me. Seriously, how lazy can you guys get? That's what this album is. Complete and utter laziness. While it's not awful, it's the same boring hard rock they've been doing that tries to be seductive and down bad to play at the back of a Spencer's. And that is not a compliment. Speaking of Spencer, I can't believe they ruined my boy Spencer Charnas of Ice Nine Kills vocals on his feature on Damage. Like, what did you guys do to him?
I wish it was a way for me to put this into words. So these feelings that I have as I start to lose control. I feel a panic rushing over me and gripping at my chest. And no matter what I say, I do it, it won't rest.
Look, I adore Spencer, but not even he can make In This Moment better. This album really got under my skin with how much they refuse to change and try to capitalize on this stuff too much. This is album 8, and I'm starting to think that this gimmick is getting old fast and they're running out of ideas. To the kinky crowd, I'm sorry, but this is not sexy. It's awful. So don't try to seduce me with In This Moment's music, because I'm about to dip out and file a restraining order. 7 years. We've been waiting 7 years for a new album from Avenged Sevenfold. After several years of vocal treatment for Edge Shadows and not taking them seriously with NFTs and supporting Kanye, we finally got a new album from Avenged. And my question is, who let these guys cook? Because my god, Life is But a Dream is single-handedly the most disappointing album I've heard in my life. This was the most confusing, jarring, and outright soul-crushing album I've ever heard. And this is coming from a big Avenged Sevenfold fan. The singles that they were giving out were a giant warning sign with flashing red arrows to show that this album was gonna suck. And man, there are just too many problems here. Nobody tries to sound like you're trying to boot up a 50-year-old computer that was already broken when you originally bought it. And We Love You just is complete annoying chaos with horrible vocals. M. Shadow's vocals here are incredibly shot, and it's hard to stomach them. I get that his vocals aren't what they used to be. What I don't get is why songs like Easier exist when they're drenched in auto-tune. This album went in so many directions abruptly in every direction on Cosmic and Beautiful Morning, trying to be metal, but classical, synth, or whatever the hell was on the God Trilogy. It's straight up unpleasant. Don't even get me started on the lyrics, because these lyrics are so bad. It sounds like they were on drugs while making this. Ironically, they confirmed they were on drugs while making this. It's like when Charlie from It's Always Sunny was trying to prove that conspiracy theory about the mail. That's what Avenged did, and we just stared at them saying, what the hell are you on, man? They said that this was intentional, but I really don't care, because this album was so disheartening on so many levels. As someone who got into metal from Avenged, this hurt my soul. Avenged, I'm not loving you right now. But somehow, this wasn't even the worst album I heard this year.
You got me stuck.
of all the bands from the past who made great music, I've never seen a bigger downfall in a band than 30 Seconds to Mars, because their extremely pretentious sounding titled album It's the End of the World, But It's a Beautiful Day is my worst album of 2023. If you thought Jared and Shannon Leto couldn't get worse after the disaster of America, think again, because they find every single way to make the most commercially bankrupt, lifeless, cash grab album of all time. There is no pulse on this album. It's dead on arrival as soon as you hit play. From the opening song Stuck, prepare to be sucked by a soul-sucking parasite for 33 minutes, which feels like an eternity. That's not something music should do when you're listening to it. Imagine sounding like completely worse versions of Imagine Dragons, Maroon 5, and an even worse version of Post Malone. You know you goofed up when you make terrible bands sound like Imagine Dragons and Maroon 5 look like Fleetwood Mac. So much of this album sounds identical. There are even two songs that have similar sounding titles, Love These Days and Lost These Days. It's the most bland, kinda electropop album that was specifically made for car commercials, and that is the worst kind of music you can make. Seasons, Get Up Kid, World on Fire, Avalanche, Never Not Love You. Everything is so dead, it's mind-numbing. Did I forget to mention the insane amount of producers Jared hired to do his homework for him? Seriously, how did this amount of people make something so empty? The worst is when this band tries to do all these whack beat drops on Life is Beautiful and 7-1, and that's when it's unbearable. You know what's even more heinously offensive? Trying to be clever by referencing your old stuff like A Beautiful Lie and This Is War, like you actually cared about them. If you cared, you would have made those albums again and be an actual band. I'm convinced Jared Leto is beyond repair, because I've never heard an album from a band that is now so out of touch with reality that it's like they're in a zoo exhibit and we're witnessing lame acts. Say what you want about America or the other bad albums on here, at least they were entertainingly bad. It's the End of the World is a dead man walking that's only begging to be taken out of its misery. And us as a collective have to pull the trigger. No one should have to suffer through what I believe is clearly the worst album of 2023. Thank God it's over. I never want to have to hear these awful albums again. Thankfully, we can put them in the past and move forward to the best. Remember, these are all my opinions, and if you liked any of these albums, that's perfectly fine. I just did not myself. Let me know what you thought was the worst of the year, and if you agree or disagree with my list. Please like, share, and subscribe to show that my suffering was not in vain. I'll see you guys next time for the best of the year.